bass 1 year later. Hello, my name is Amin, also known as Makut on this channel. I've been playing bass guitar for about a year. I bought my first bass guitar about a year ago, and I've been playing ever since. This is what I've learned in my 1 year of playing bass guitar. For the record, I've never played with a band. I've only played on my own. I've only practiced on my own, so it's a very big disclaimer. And this video is going to be about what I learned in 1 year of playing bass on my own. So I hope that by talking about my experiences that I gathered through a year of playing bass guitar, it might help out people who are just starting out. But over the year, I have learned a few things that I thought might be useful to share, and it might be nice. So why did I pick up bass guitar? There's several reasons. The first one that I can think of, maybe the biggest one, is Scott Pilgrim. So Scott Pilgrim is a character that was created by Brian Lee O'Malley in his series of comics or graphic novels, Scott Pilgrim, and then they have different names for 6 volumes. And there's also been a movie, and I learned about Scott Pilgrim through the movie first. And Scott Pilgrim is a character that plays bass guitar and that goes through adventures, and that I related with a lot. And I thought, wow, Scott Pilgrim kind of looks really cool playing bass guitar. And that was a few years ago, until I finally decided that I was going to get a bass guitar and that I was going to start learning the instrument. Another obvious reason why I picked up bass guitar is because I love music. So that was a factor, I guess. And liking music meant that, well, I wanted to pick up an instrument, but which one? The obvious one was guitar, for me at least. But there is an oversaturation of guitars in the market, and I didn't want to be one of 25 billion guitars out there. So sort of is a bit of an ego thing, and I wanted to be a bit more unique, so I picked up bass guitar instead. Music is a form of self-expression, and I wanted another form of self-expression. I dabbled in visual art. That's a fancy word for drawing. I dabbled in writing poetry when I was younger. Another thing was I wanted to prove to myself that I was able to look cool. Coolness is a factor as well. Relates back to Scott Pilgrim, but I would see in music videos, and I would just watch in concerts as musicians would noodle around the instrument, the fretboard, for guitars or bass guitars, and they would look really cool, you know, and they would just, and I thought it looked like it required a lot of skill to be able to sort of move your fingers around the fretboard so quickly and to be able to play, and I thought I want to do that as well. So those are pretty much the reasons why I picked up bass guitar. Now, over here, how did I do it? I bought a bass guitar. Not this one. This was not my first bass guitar. I bought one off of Amazon. It was a starter pack that I will be showing here for about, it was I think £100. I don't remember. The price is probably also going to be here. And it was a nice starting bass guitar, although at the time I didn't really know what a nice bass guitar was versus a crappy one, so who knows. I also looked into music stores, and I sort of explored what a bass guitar looks like in person, because I had never seen a bass guitar up close. So I got that bass guitar. It was a bass guitar and an amp, a few picks, strings, a strap, and I think that's it. So it was quite useful. It was a longer fretboard than this one. Don't remember how long it is, but it was longer. 4 strings. And yeah, it was a nice bass guitar that I played with for maybe a month or 2. I thought, I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna see if I like it. And yeah, and it looked really cool. It held back and everything. After a while, I thought, I want to upgrade. I don't want to be seen playing that in public. That's the truth. So I decided to go for something a bit fancier. You might say, wow, the Squire fancier. Well, yes, the Squire is fancier than what I had before. So I decided to go for this one, which I bought Christmas 2017. So the name of this bass guitar is a bit of a mouthful, so I need to read it off. So a Squier Vintage Modified Precision Bass PJ in 3 colors. Sunburst. Well, this is not Sunburst, this is Candy Apple Red. I thought it looked really cool. It was a big purchase at the time. For me, I wasn't working, I was doing my master's degree and had no income, but I thought it was worth it. I also bought an amp, a small Fender amp, I think 60 watts. It's up there, but I can't really use it right now because of my housing situation. I can't play with an amp, so I just play to my computer, which is the reason why I'm probably not going to feature any clips of me playing in this video using an amp at least. I bought this strap, Ernie Ball, and I bought a few picks, Fender picks, even though I mostly just play with my fingers. Before buying my gear, I had to do a lot of research. I had to go online and see what people thought about Squier guitars, bass guitars, Fender bass guitars, about other brands. And I really wanted to go for a classic look, so I went for the Squier, so the Fender look, which I really like. I was going to go for the Affinity at first, but everyone said if you're going to go for a Squier, then might as well spend that extra money to get a good Squier as opposed to an Infinity, which, you know, an Infinity isn't bad, but this line here would look a bit more polished for the higher price. Another thing that I bought, not at the same time as my bass guitar, was Rocksmith and the Rocksmith cable, and it's something that I'm going to come back to in this video. Rocksmith helped me a lot, and this is not a paid promotion, I just really like the software. And now in terms of practicing, there's a big downside that I never really got to practice with people live, which I really want to change that. I'm currently looking for people to play, but for now I'm gonna have to stick to playing on my own. But the way that I've been practicing is I try to practice every day for at least an hour, but sometimes it would go up to 2 hours, and on crazy days it would go to 3, but mostly around 1 hour. So the way that I would usually practice is I would go into Rocksmith and I would pick songs that I know that I can't play that well, and I try to identify why I can't play them that well, and I try to work on that. So for example, the first song that I wanted to be able to play properly was Don't Fear the Reaper by Blue Oyster Cult, and when I first got Rocksmith, playing that song was impossible. It was not only technically challenging for me, but it was just exhausting to play. My hand, especially my fretting hand, would get super tired by the end of it, and a lot of times I just wouldn't be able to finish the song because I would be so tired. Don't Fear the Reaper would be something like that over and over and over again for like 5 minutes or 6 minutes. So I set that as my goal, and I tried to practice every day. I practiced that song, but I practiced other songs on the side just to try and be able to build my stamina up enough to be able to play one song. And eventually I was able to play it. After being able to play it, I marked that objective as complete, and I set myself a new one. I think the next one was Jethro Tull Aqualung, which is a song whose bass line I really like. So it will do something like and that was just, to me, it was so melodic and I loved it, and I really wanted to be able to play it. And yeah, it took me a while to be able to play it. It was less about the stamina and more about moving my fingers on this side of the fretboard with enough precision that the notes don't sound muddled. So that took me a while. And so on and so forth, where I would just pick a new song that I wanted to be able to play. And that song was hard enough for me. It was hard enough for it to be its own objective. But on the side I would play other songs and try and practice. Currently I'm at a point where I'm trying to learn a couple of songs by Led Zeppelin, Good Times, Bad Times, and Ramble On, which are not very difficult, but they do have one part where it can be quite challenging for me to keep up with the rhythm and to play the notes accurately. But I've also picked up something new, which is doing chromatic scales to a metronome, so going to try and improve my fingering, because I'd received some feedback that it was a bit crooked and I want to improve that. So it would help me play faster, hopefully. Rocksmith as a software is great to build up your technique, it's great to be able to play faster, but it doesn't really help you with music theory. So that was something that I had to learn on my own. I looked up resources online on music theory and tried to learn, and my music theory is still lacking, but I do know the basics, and I can get by reading sheet music. I can't do that. If I want to play things, if I want to create my own bass line, or if I want to compose music, I mostly do it by ear. And I'm sure that learning music theory would make it easier, but composing isn't really my priority right now. Another very important thing that I learned about bass guitar, or just any instrument in general, is knowing the feel of the instrument. And by feel, I mean to get used to the layout of the instrument, specifically getting used to the fretboard, specifically being able to play without looking, and it's something that I'm still working on. All of these points that I'm mentioning, I'm still working on. And right now I'm at a point where I can go to like the 5th fret. Is that the 5th? Yes. Or the 3rd, or the 7th, maybe the 12th? I don't know if I can do the 12th. Oh, yeah, 12th fret without looking. It's something that I learned over time by knowing what my neck looks like and what it feels like and how to go where, without necessarily always looking at the instrument as I'm playing. Another distinction that I learned is playing sitting down versus playing standing up, which is an important distinction. I learned somewhere that if you learn to play bass sitting down and you want to transition to playing while standing up, it's going to be like learning a new instrument, which is, it's not true. It's just your hand positioning is going to be a bit different. Sometimes I find it easier to be able to play while I'm sitting down with my hand, but when I go to the higher frets, it's actually easier to play when you're standing up. Eventually, you just want to learn how to play standing up, because if you want to play in a venue or in front of a crowd, you're most likely going to be standing up. So another caveat about Rocksmith is that while it teaches you how to play faster and teaches you about hammer-ons and slides and whatever, it doesn't really give you a good basis for proper technique, like left-hand technique or right-hand technique. So that's something that I had to look up online as well. A lot of YouTube videos. Adam Neely is one that helped me a lot in terms of left hand and right hand technique. A concept that I really like about playing bass guitar or like any instrument is economy of motion, about how your movements have to be calculated and they have to serve a purpose. And it's something that I think is really cool. But sometimes I like to disregard that rule, even though it's very useful because of showmanship. And sometimes it just looks cooler if you're doing something with your fingers, even though it doesn't serve a technical purpose. It still looks kind of cool. What I'm thinking of right now is Pete Townsend of The Who, when he would sort of go like this to strum his guitar. It doesn't make him play better, but it does look cooler. Speaking of The Who, I picked up bass guitar wanting to play rhythm. I want it to be the epitome of a pocket bass guitarist, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be that sort of rock solid foundation and nothing else. Just keep up the groove, keep the rhythm, be that bridge between the drummer and the melodic instruments and nothing else. But over time, as I started playing more songs, as I started diversifying what songs I would play, I discovered that bass guitar can be a very melodic instrument, and I love that, and I want to be like that. John Entwistle currently is someone I very much admire, and I really strive to be able to play like him one day. Classic rock is currently my favorite genre, whatever classic rock is. It was through bass guitar that I started exploring new genres, specifically classic rock. I was looking for, okay, what sounds more interesting bass-wise to me. Punk rock isn't really my thing to play on bass. I like the way it sounds, but I don't like the bass part. Metal, same thing. You can't really hear the bass in metal. So I gravitated towards classic rock, and I discovered some great bands. The Who. Everyone knows The Who, but I didn't know The Who. I discovered the Grateful Dead. Phil Lesh is someone that can do some amazing things with a bass guitar. I'm thinking Led Zeppelin, again, Blue Oyster Cult, Jethro Tull, and a lot of other bands that I discovered by playing bass guitar. And you can't talk about the Grateful Dead or Phil flesh without talking about improvisation, which is a skill that I value and that I try to improve. To me, improvisation is one of the most beautiful forms of music. To be able to improvise live and coordinate with your fellow bandmates it's amazing to me, and it's something that I also try to do. One way that I practice this is that I would put on a jam-style rock track in the background and try to play along with it, but without any sheet music or without any tabs. I can't read sheet music. You got the scales, you need to play according to the scales, but it's also not that simple because you need to be able to follow the video and follow the music in the video. They're gonna go up, they're gonna go down, and you need to be able to follow that just off the cuff, and it's pretty cool to me. When I first started playing bass guitar, my first priority was, okay, how fast can I play? How quickly can I hit these notes? How sick of a solo can I get? Something I learned about bass guitar that was very important is more is less. No, less is more. As a bass guitarist, I learned that I need to play smartly as opposed to quickly, and even though I still think that a fuller bass line sounds more interesting to me, it's still worth it to make that balance and that trade-off between playing quickly and fully and having sort of a melodic, just continuous bass line versus supporting your band, supporting your guitarist, and making sure that they sound good. So a great insight that I came across on YouTube was actually Flea talking about playing bass guitar, and according to him, a bass guitarist's most important role is to support the band, to make them sound like they are the best musicians in the world. And currently I'm still trying to find that balance between being a support role, but also not being lost in the background. And here I'm thinking about John Entwistle, who shines as a bassist, and people know that the bassist is doing a great job. And maybe it's an ego thing, but I do like some recognition, and that also ties in with creativity. In my humble opinion, if you're a pocket bassist, there isn't that much room for making your own stuff and bringing out your personality through your bass line. Whereas if you sort of noodle around, then that provides a richer outlet for what you want to say through the bass line. So yeah, I think this video got a lot longer than I wanted it to be. I hope that that was helpful for you guys that maybe are thinking about picking up a bass guitar, that just are starting out. And I hope my experience that I gathered in a year of playing might help you out with your playing eventually. So yeah, I hope you have a great day, and I'll be up editing this video. The recording time is 38 minutes. Oh, editing is going to be beautiful. Happy days. Bye.